It says we're live. Yeah. Why? Where are you going? Don't touch the microphone. Don't do it. David Griffin, did you get the bottle of VH? Tell her I left with Liberty. Yes, I did. Thank you very much, David. I haven't sampled it yet. I will probably sample it this weekend. Appreciate you. 5x5 says everyone. Squish, speaking to the microphone. Yeah. Nope, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Hi, everyone. What's up, Woodland? Liberty, hey. What is today? Today is the 4th of February, 2025. This one's wiggly again. So whatever the current flu-ish type symptoms are that are going around, apparently she's over, which is good. The next youngest is hopefully on the cusp, and I wasn't hit very bad at all. So I think I'm like I'm almost 24 hours fever free, which is good. So just doing a little coffee time with Bear today. I figured we would maybe do a little bit of Q&A. And also I want to give you some updates. Oh, hey, she's tearing up Aspen's son. But to be fair, it was on the floor. So it's been chaos around here between sick babies and getting ready for the ruckus that is coming. My wife was just, hey, you. No. What? What happened? What? Okay. Bad. Is that bad? What did it do? So, as you can see, maybe if you tuned in for an intel brief or prepping stuff or anything else, that's probably not what you're going to get today. Just a touch point between me and y'all, the community. Chaos. It's been chaos. Good chaos, but chaos. My wife was just doing an order for Ruckus shirts.
Yes.
There's going to be some Ruckus exclusive shirts at the Ruckus.
Yes.
Hello, wife.
Hello.
And Alex Toter did the artwork, right?
For one of them.
One of them. Awesome. What calendar do you use? I use a Google Calendar. It don't matter, Moshe.
Fireplace. Hot.
Don't go. I would recommend you go watch the Life podcast with Luca Baffy. He had 4 different biblical scholars talking about 4 different calendars on that podcast. It was great, and I recommend you do whichever one makes the most sense and or convicts you to do, because calendars, it seemed to be less a point of critical agreement and more a point of contention for people to just argue about. How do you navigate eating clean at chain restaurants like Olive Garden? I don't eat stuff that's not food. And if there's nothing on the menu that's food, I don't eat there. Simple as that. So Ruckus stuff. My wife is ordering Ruckus shirts. What does it mean to be the firstborn to the father? Texas T, I don't even understand the question. You and I can chat about that in person. Biblically, the firstborn is not really where the blessings end up. Adam versus Yeshua, Cain versus Abel, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, David, 7th son of a 7th son. Reuben versus Levi and Judah and Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Joseph. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I've never said I don't know more in my life since I got ordained by Pastor Joe. So, Ruckus stuff. Ruckus is coming up soon. It's March 7th through 9th, 2025, which is, less than 5 weeks away. So if you want to come to the Ruckus, I recommend you do. There's still some opportunities for Ruckus sponsors. If somebody wants to come and sponsor the Ruckus, you're welcome to do that. All of your contacts and questions on that should go to admin@calebhouse.org or events@calebhouse.org. Cafe Bustelo, delicious. What else? So I did some. Don't forget about the responder class the next day. Oh yes, Refuge is doing some classes in conjunction with the timing of the Ruckus. So if you're going to be in town and you want to train, you can find those dates at refugemedical.com. Click the training tab. If you participate in the virtual ruck, can a ruck t-shirt be purchased? I believe that is correct, Torah Prepper. I believe that is correct. What's up, Torah Prepper? Shalom. I don't know is always true, says Daryl Calhoun. Well, unless you do know, and then you're saying I don't know to cover up the fact that you do know. But by and large, yeah, I don't know is generally accurate. I was at Caleb House this morning doing site work, and I figured I'd give you guys a little bit of update. Kyle, I see you. I'll hey TJ, I want you to know, thanks to you, me, and my wife are reading our Bible more and watching your videos on the scriptures. Just a real thank you. Well, Kyle, bless you. It's all Elohim. It's if you see anything good in me, it's Yah doing what Yah does. But I'm glad you're doing that, getting in your word, staying in your word. So I was at Caleb House this morning. Barndo's done, which is awesome. Care House 1 is almost done, which is awesome. And I was clearing trees. I don't know how many, but it was a lot. Probably 3 dozen sizable trees, say everything 16 inches and up to maybe a couple that were like 30-ish inches. And then 100 smaller saplings and all of that to make room for right-of-way. Bear, have you ever heard of combat shooting and tactics CSAT? You mean the CSAT way? I have. I've watched some of his videos. A guy absolutely seems to know what he's talking about. I've never trained with him, never talked about him, never talked with him in person. I don't know him, but seems to know what he's talking about in his videos. So clearing right away today so that the power company can bring in more power for the admin pad, which is cool. Footers for the on-site directors' quarters are dug. They will be poured when it's both warm enough to pour concrete and not soaking wet here in Oklahoma. Yesterday, by the way, it got up to 80 degrees in Oklahoma yesterday, in my part of Oklahoma. So weather is weird. And then I think later this week, there's a chance of like thunder, snow, or so. I don't know what the false weather prophets are into, but there's something retarded coming. As far as the weather is concerned. So we have a thing with the Care House 1 right now, where we're yet again having to reevaluate the bedroom size based upon complying with another nameless, faceless agency. And so if you guys could just keep that in prayer, the house is built, like it's built, so almost done. And now it's like, oh no, it might be freaking 6 inches too narrow. Just retarded stuff. So yeah, keep that in prayer, please. The well house is going up. We're pouring I say we, I wasn't there. The construction people at Caleb House poured a significant concrete slab that's then being framed up around the existing well. And we're going to have like a tank house where the well will fill the tanks inside of an insulated building at the point of the well. And then the tanks will pump out from from the tanks into each individual house so that there's not a constant draw on the well, running the well dry. It gives time for the well to recover and the pumps don't burn out. I got my Caleb House t-shirts. Thank you, Jay Ox. That's awesome. What's up, Raincat? Shalom. TJ, whose picture is behind you on the wall? That would be Charles Spurgeon. Charles Spurgeon. He's a preacher man who I am fond of. His sermons, his commentaries, his books. I like him. Shalom buckets and Bibles. And so it's snowing here. Oh, Raincat. So work continues at Caleb House, which is awesome. And thank you to everybody who supports what we're doing there. There's I can never give you details on this, but we just did a thing in a place that ended well. Put it that way, as far as field team stuff is concerned. So continue to pray for the field team people, please. Rats Tourniquet, Jeff Kirkham. Jeff has agreed to come on the show. Had an excellent call with him yesterday. Spent maybe 25, 30 minutes on the phone, just talking, getting to know one another a little bit, and apologizing. And he's going to come on the Bear Show and explain his reasoning behind the rats and what the approval process through the Committee on TCCC looked like and why it went the way that it went. And we talked for, like I said, 25, 30 minutes. And mostly what we talked about were scenarios where his product saved people's lives. And that's really cool. And he was telling me story after story after story where the tourniquet that was applied was a rat's and it worked and those people lived. And he was telling me other stories about in some cases where Committee on TCCC recommended tourniquets had been applied and weren't working, and then rats tourniquets were applied and then it was working. And here's the thing. There's a life's dynamic. There's a failure rate on everything, and every scenario is less than ideal. If we have to put tourniquets on, this is already less than ideal. And so we had a really good conversation. He's going to be coming on the show, and he talked a lot about forgiveness and positivity and saving lives. And there's not a thing wrong with that. Okay. And so I'm looking forward to having him on the show. And that's what an honor. Also, turns out this is the guy that wrote that series of books that just got turned into the movie Homestead. And so it'd be cool to talk to him about that. He also does a lot of work with veterans as far as doing retreats with them for healing from PTSD and complex PTSD and trauma and anxiety. And he talked quite a bit about that. And I want to know more about what he's doing there and that he can share that resource. So it was an honor to be able to talk with him. And I'm looking forward to talking with him on camera. Kosher Dad, forgiveness. How interesting. What's up, Rocklick? Long time no see. What else? I had a really good call with I have a coach now, a brother, a friend named Matt, who's awesome. And I really had a really good call with him about spirit versus ego versus flesh and growing in the spirit versus growing in the flesh. And it's interesting for me because it's also that time of year. It's winter and it's sabbatical season for me. Um, and so there's a lot more reflection, introspection right now than there normally is for me. One of you guys said on the live stream, and it's completely accurate. You're like, oh, got it. Bear on sabbatical means instead of having to do 20,000 things, he chooses to do 10,000 things every day. Pretty much. Pretty much. But having a little bit more time to do the things that matter, to be a father to my kids, to be a husband to my wife, to spend time with people in our assembly, just sitting on the porch talking, working through some things, has been a real blessing. And what's up, Jason Schmidt? It's been just interesting for me because I feel spiritually right now, and for the last probably couple of months, I am growing spiritually at a rate I don't even comprehend. And it's very hard to translate that, explain it. I can barely explain it to myself. It's hard to explain it to anybody else. You seem humbled today. Thanks, Tammy. I tell you what I'm not pissed off. And frankly, I get in front of this camera far too often when I am. And that's great for ratings, but it's terrible for me. It's just not a great fit. What's up, Scuba Rob? Shalom. And it's that weird push-pull of setting and maintaining an expectation that I'll be on here with y'all on camera talking about whatever it is that we're going to talk, whatever the news of the day is, and feeling the need to perform in the flesh rather than performing in the spirit for what it is that the Father made me to do in the first place, which probably doesn't even make sense to a bunch of y'all who are listening. Tactical Box Cutter. Hey, why didn't you let me know you were going live, bro? Hey, we're live. Thanks for the $10. So it's just it's an interesting time for me personally, personal development wise, as every winter is, because I try and take a little bit of a sabbatical every winter, and then life kicks you in the nuts, and between death and injury and illness and business and life, it's been in no way restful. You inspire me daily. Bless you, Liberty. And so I think it's learning to navigate the chaos gracefully in the spirit rather than violently in the flesh is maybe the overarching theme of this particular sabbatical. Because it's been a lot. It's been a lot, and that's okay. It's been a lot. So maybe we'll do some Q&A now. The Abundant Homestead. I found over 3,000 worth of tourniquets and medical supplies dumpsters diving this weekend. Crazy, all from North American Rescue Company. That is crazy. Must have been a hospital, maybe, or an ambulance. Sometimes they throw things out when they, air quote, expire. That's nuts. Good for you. Great find. As long as the packaging is still intact, should be good to go. Make sure there wasn't biohazard waste in the dumpster, Rhonda Miller, shalom, sister. When life gives us a lot, it's when we have the best opportunity to grow. Yeah. Dana, does Hami make homemade yogurt by chance? Any tips? She does not. Not that she's opposed to it, but she's also been on high utilization right now between mom stuff, wife stuff, house stuff, sourdough bread, and a lot of things behind the scenes. My wife does a lot behind the scenes that most people don't see. Like we were just doing banking paperwork like just before this, and then she's working on product and product listings and point of sale stuff for Caleb House for the Ruckus, and then also website redesign and content embedding for Grindstone. And then she was doing some inventory stuff. Like my wife's awesome. So limited hours in each day. We all get to choose how we're going to spend each one of those hours. And because Refuge and Grindstone and Caleb House are important to me, they're important to her. And so she spends a fair amount of time just on the back end in all that stuff. Zach Bauer from An American Homestead and New to Torah does homemade yogurt. And you could probably find something over there, Dana, on how to do homemade yogurt. I don't even eat yogurt. I don't like yogurt myself personally, unless it's froyo, which, let's be honest, pinkies up, froyo. Okay. And froyo to me was always like, an alternative to real ice cream if there was no real ice cream. That's my extent of yogurt knowledge. Google Zach's page. Love froyo. Zach just released his yogurt on Patreon. There you go, JS Genesis Designs. There you go. Team crunchy or smooth froyo? Well, I guess if you put like bits of stuff in the froyo, like crushed up Reese's Pieces or whatever, then I guess it's, that's got to be. See, look at us proving the concept here, Scuba Rob. Of course, if you take you put chopped up Oreos or crushed up Reese's Cups or whatever Heath bars in your ice cream, it instantly gets better, right? Yeah, crunchy. Did you get the monster to sleep?
Yes.
You're amazing. Good job. Are you joining?
Sure.
So we're gonna do some Q&A just because I haven't been on the internet in this format in a while, and you need to turn your volume down, baby.
Oh yeah, I was listening.
Yeah, and so we have some very simple rules for live streaming. Particularly, we do this weekly on Patreon, but for the general population today, ask your questions in all capital letters. That will increase the likelihood that I will see it. If I see it and I want to respond, I will. If I see it and I don't want to respond, I won't. And if I don't see it, I can't respond. And the other rule is just, hey, everybody be cool. Okay. Everybody, you be cool to me. I'll be cool to you. You guys be cool in the chat. Bear, you got them step bars on your truck yet? Light bar mount, etc. What's up, Cody C? Hey, Cody, thank you very much. Got the t-shirt. I signed your paperwork. It will be remitted via mail. I got the hitch lock. It was on this desk. It's not currently. Thank you. You're awesome. I haven't mounted any of that stuff yet because I think that truck's going to end up with Kyle at Grindstone. Either way, we needed all of those things. So, favorite chainsaw. Honey, what is your favorite chainsaw?
Why wanted to answer the one before that?
Oh, what was the one before that?
How does sheep taste?
Okay.
Delicious. I will say it does greatly depend on the breed of sheep that you are eating, as well as how that sheep is raised, as well as how it's processed. So just because you had a bad sheep one time doesn't mean that all sheep are bad.
That's a good word.
Okay. Now, what's my favorite chainsaw? I don't know, honey. What is my chainsaw?
Do you like your little one?
I do. That's my favorite.
It's
the one I
a
use.
monstrous steel MS 171.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's massive.
Got a, what, 18-inch, 16 bar, 18-inch bar?
It's a 16.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a 16. I don't know. It's kind of, I'm not very good at favorites. So then I go on the data side of what do I use the most? Right now, what I use the most is my MS362 with a bark box and a 25-inch bar, full chisel, and my MS500i with a 28-inch bar and a bark box. And they're just, that combo has been really good. And so I was cutting wood for 4 or 5 hours at Caleb House this morning. And that's what I brought. And that's what I used, because anymore, I got 19 bad vertebrae. And I love the steel 661. I've got a Ripsaw 661. That thing's amazing. I love it, but it's heavy. And if I don't need a 32-inch bar, which I didn't today, I'm just not going to use it. So that 500 with a 28 works great for bigger stuff. I mean, you can cut up to a 56-inch tree with that, or larger if you know what you're doing. And a 25 on the 362 works wonderfully. 362, I think, is, I mean, how do you even say all the way around it's the best saw that anybody could buy? Because for what? What are you doing with it? If you live in South Texas with mesquite bushes, a 171's good. If you live in the Pacific Northwest with gigantic trees, you need a Husqvarna 395 XP or a 661 ported and tuned, running a 36-inch bar or a 42-inch bar. So it just depends. But for me, the 362 is the one that I run the most often. And second most is the 500.
Somebody asked if we were starting a garden yet.
Oh, so you want to answer that question?
So we are in process of moving our garden because we have a new layout now, new house, new things aren't working where they were. So we are moving the garden. I've already bought some starts. We have a local farm that produces starts and full crops and everything every year. But I try to always support them when they do starts. It's a family business. It's parents and they're like 5 or 6 or 10 kids. I don't know how many kids they got. They got a lot. But they're great people. And
great people.
They're doing the things.
So good. They did all the things. So everybody said, you can't make carrots come out of this ground, but they did it. So many
they
carrots.
They do it so well. So I do have some starts. I've got to get dirt in my beds. And then I'm going to get those starts in the ground, hopefully.
That's on the menu for this week.
Hopefully, yes.
Are we still doing that with the Polar Vortex 3.0 that's coming through?
Yeah, it's not going to get that bad here.
Okay, cool. Derek Olson said, question, what truck do you use the most in grindstone deployments? So up until now, the hands down winner for grindstone has been a Chevy 5500. It's either a 45 or a 5500. I think it's a 5500, affectionately known as Bubbles. If you've ever seen Trailer Park Boys, Bubbles, because it's googly eyed. But that truck, while still a good truck, we've gotten to the point with it where our maintenance costs year over year have exceeded the value of the truck. Now, is that a great KPI, key performance indicator for Grindstone? Probably not, because when we use our stuff, it's weird. The stuff does nothing. It just sits there, maintained at a state of readiness until and go. And then it's wide open for weeks, if not months, of very heavy usage. And so that truck, my point is, we're rough on things, not intentionally. We try to be good stewards of it. But I mean, gosh dang, Billy Grace, if you're listening right now, Billy Grace will drive up from Florida in his 3/4 ton GMC and do as many freaking dump trailer loads as he can in a day. And sometimes it's 20 in a day with a dump trailer just hauling debris. And Billy Grace is easily old enough to be our father, right? Like, and just an example of how awesome Grindstone volunteers are. He's in his own truck, just getting it, right? He's got a Grindstone dump trailer on, but he's getting it. And so when we go really hard. And so Bubbles has been an awesome truck and is becoming less and less reliable. We're doing more and more repairs on it. And so Grindstone entered into an agreement with Barco Truck Rentals, truck leases, just Q4 of 2024. And we got a Ram. We got a Ram because I love Kyle more than I hate Ram. That's why. And I personally am not a fan of Ram trucks, the goal is maintain readiness. And the reason we went with the lease route was because you get a brand new truck every year. The cost is lower than buying a truck, and from a cash flow standpoint. I don't have to lay out $100,000 for a truck right now that, based upon our usage, is going to be worthless in 3 years anyway. So now, yes.
No, I'm just listening intently.
Oh, why?
Because
I feel like I'm in trouble. What did I do?
I just wanted to rest my shoulder.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Okay.
We also have historically made a lot of use of my Chevy or GMC, my GMC 1 ton. But predominantly we're using 3/4 and 1 ton trucks, and a couple of 2 ton trucks to get stuff done. We've now, after Hurricane Helene, we got the brother deal on a couple of semis, Volvos. I think they're Volvos. And turns out one of them is basically like needs a new motor. So that's not much of a deal. But the other one is in good working condition. And so we're growing the capacity of Grindstone as we go. But we certainly don't have the liquidity to just go out and like buy our dream trucks. I keep saying, if I hit the Powerball, but I don't play the Powerball anymore. I haven't played the Powerball in a few years. But if I hit the Powerball, we'd have 100 trucks that are all white with a blue line down the side of them that say Grindstone Ministries, and they're just ready to go to do good works. And we're getting better at, in fact, Kyle, having an executive director on staff that it's their responsibility to steward the ministry around the clock is such a huge blessing, because Grindstone is very active in the spring and in the fall. Because that's, generally speaking, when tornadoes and hurricanes are. Well, what about summer and winter? Well, we're finding more and more opportunities to do intentional activations of Grindstone during that time to go be a blessing to other people in between storms. And so that's really cool. And it's also good for the maintenance of the equipment, because part of maintaining equipment is using it. Like, if it sits around too long, stuff just seizes and rusts and breaks, and you get dry rot on the tires or the tracks. And so you don't want that to happen. And I'm a firm believer the Father didn't give us this capability so we could look at it 10 months out of the year. got to have a yard to park all the stuff in. You only use it 8 weeks a year, and so Kyle's done a really good job of making sure we stay active to be a blessing with the stuff the Father has entrusted us with. And one of my KPIs, key performance indicators for Grindstone, is how many hydraulic lines have we broken? And most people would look at that as a negative, but to me, it's a positive because it means you're using your stuff.
Mhm.
It's like next to impossible to not rip hydraulic lines doing debris removal. You just can't. So I want to know, like, did we get at least 3 busted hydraulic lines this quarter? Because if the answer is no, we didn't use our stuff enough. We weren't active. Okay, scrolling and looking for more questions.
Sarah asked if we could do a video every month updating our Shemitah plan.
That's a great idea. Let me make.
That is a good plan. Good idea.
Which Sarah asked that? Was that Sarah Huskin?
H, yeah.
Hi, Sarah H. Monthly Shemitah.
Scarecrow wants to know, does Grindstone have a OMD, operational medical director?
Yes, asterisk. Not on staff. We have friends of the volunteer corps of Grindstone that function as that when needed. Like, we're deploying, we need doc. We have a pool of docs that have been a huge blessing to us, but we don't have anybody on staff. If you're interested in doing that, please, by all means, just shoot us an email, admin@grindstoneministries.com, and we'll have that conversation.
Our sister is here.
My sister is here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. I love her. Which one? You can whisper it in my ear. No way. Really?
I was like, the one that would probably be here.
I don't know. I got a bunch of sisters. Let's brag on my little sister. My little sister just got named head chef after years of diligent work at the restaurant that she's been working at, busting her butt, making something happen, turning her life around. She's done an awesome job. So, Bear Nation with the emojis, clap hands for my little sister in the chat. She's amazing. She's done such a great job. And I'm proud of you because I know you may be better than anyone. And I know it has not been an easy road. Super aware of that. And you've done a good job. And I'm proud of you. So keep going. You rock.
You do rock.
And for everything there is a season. Right now, you're in this season. And while you have blessings to rejoice over them. You should rejoice over them. You should make sure that the Father knows just how thankful you are. Mm-hmm. And you should be thankful. You should be happy because life is short and predominantly painful. And when you have a reason, and this is for everybody, any reason for joy, lean into it. Mm-hmm. Like, for real, just lean into it because generally speaking, adulthood is just getting kicked in the sack every day, repeatedly, over and over and over again. And
it sucks.
It sucks. So take the opportunity to be happy, to celebrate. You should celebrate your wins. And I'm so proud of you for winning right now. You're doing a great job.
Good job.
Pastor Scott, I think, therefore, I don't know. I love Charles Spurgeon picture on the wall. Sure appreciate you, Bear. Bless you, Pastor Scott. Thank you. Oh,
we got our fencing. It's early.
What do you think about Trump's first couple of weeks? Not CIA wants to know. That sounds exactly like a question the CIA would ask. No. What do you think? Because I know you're very politically active. You stay up to date on all of these things.
Yeah, I don't even know. I just know what you've told me. And I don't know, y'all. I will probably I don't know if I should like openly speak my mind about the whole.
Of course you should.
Yeah.
Say what you're thinking.
So I'm not 100% sold on Trump. Like, I think that theoretically it's better than Biden. But I don't know. I have a check in my spirit. Let me put it that way. When I think about what Trump is doing in some aspects. So I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be great or not.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Where to begin? Because I feel like qualifying all the statements I want to make too, and I just told you to just speak your mind and speak plainly.
Right.
So I'm going to do that. I like what Pete Hegseth is doing as Secretary of Defense thus far. I think what Marco Rubio is doing as Secretary of State thus far. What I don't want is hundreds of executive actions in this administration reversing the policies of the previous administration that are not then turned into bills that are submitted into Congress, that are then passed and then codified into law. I don't want 4 years from now to be in the opposite position if the opposite party regains control and everything that Trump has done is undone with the swipe of a pen. And so I respect the direction, the concept of a lot of these executive orders, but they're just executive orders. And governmentally, we're supposed to have 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, judicial. Now, I also understand that the swamp is a problem. Mm-hmm. I get it. So I don't want just ruling via executive order. I would like the good works that are coming via executive order to turn into law so that there's more of an uphill battle for whoever comes next to change those things. If it's passed and ratified by Congress, it's a thing. It can't be undone with just the stroke of a pen the next time somebody else is in the Oval Office. DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. I don't trust Elon Musk. I think I like him, but I just don't know. I draw a hard line at let's stick wires in people's brains, while also understanding that for some people, like people with severe cerebral palsy and Bell's palsy and other issues like that, that Neuralink could be a life-saving thing for them, could be a godsend for them. But I don't want wires in my brain, and I don't want the world's richest man to put wires in my brain. That just doesn't seem like a good idea. I like shutting down USAID. Yeah, money laundering scam. Yeah, yep, 100%. I'm with that. The Department of Education, if it hasn't already been obliterated with the stroke of a pen, is about to be via executive order. What does that mean? I can tell you personally and professionally, one of the issues that are potential issues for Caleb House is we have a stack of red tape that we got to work with because there's so many different agencies that have oversight over human trafficking, counter human trafficking, restoration of children. And DOGE is like in vogue right now, right? There's a lot of, I was just talking with a brother about this earlier today. There's a lot of red states that are slashing their budgets and auditing, social programs and all of that. Well, if the regulatory space changes and when I say we, I mean you and me who's listening to this right now, build out whatever Caleb House ends up looking like to meet current specification. And 4 years later, that specification changes because some bureaucrat with a pen got a wild hair up their ass. And now we can't do what we do because the bedroom's got to be 10 feet wide. And now it has to be 10.3 feet. And your bedroom's not 10.3 feet. That doesn't help anybody. And so, that's why ruling via pen is, I like it in the short term, but I don't love it in the long term because it doesn't have any long-term staying power. I do like the creation of the sovereign wealth fund for the country. I think thus far the utilization of tariffs as a threat have worked fairly well. It's likely that that's going to force Xi Jinping to have conversations with Trump about import-export with China. And if they're talking about import-export, they're probably going to talk about Taiwan, which means maybe we're not going to go to war in the South China Sea, which would be cool because I'm good with not spending American lives on anything dumb. I'm very good with that. I don't like that all foreign aid was stopped to all countries on planet Earth except the nation state of Israel and Egypt. I don't like that Trump has been toying with the idea of turning the Gaza Strip into a development. I don't like how cozy the United States of America and the nation state of Israel are. I don't like that 90% of our politicians are bought off through AIPAC or compromised through Diddy and Epstein by the nation state of Israel. Mossad, Shin Bet, in conjunction with who? Probably the CIA. We were supposed to get a story about, we were supposed to get the details of the New Jersey drones, and instead we got a story that, hey, don't worry about it, it's us. All that was sanctioned by the FAA. We've yet to see the real economic impact of the deportations, both in real costs. While I support what Tom Homan is doing, and I think we need to secure southern border, and all those people need to go back home again. I also think for the people that are not cartel members, violent offenders, rapists, murderers, there should be a relatively quick turnaround to get those people back to do the jobs that they were already doing. And now, what do I mean by that? Because there's a lot of people who are like, those should be American jobs. Yeah, there's a guy in California right now, a farmer who's catching a bunch of shit on X because he's like, there's nobody here to pick the crop. And all the people in the comments are like, well, you should hire Americans. Americans have gotten soft. We don't do that anymore. People don't want to go out and work the fields. And so if you want avocados, that's how it's going to be. Somebody's got to do that work. And there's somebody that wants to do that work. And if we really have laissez-faire capitalism, as long as those people are here on a work visa and we know who they are and they're not violent offenders, they should be welcome to do that work. But I definitely want Tren de Aragua and the Sinaloa cartel and the narco terrorists and everybody else out. So I'm all for that. And so it's definitely a nuanced conversation that the hardcore MAGA crowd doesn't really seem to want to have. It's like you either support Trump or you're a blue-haired liberal. Like I'm not. It's very independent. I try and be independent of all of this. Also, that like abolishing the IRS and establishing the External Revenue Service. I think I'm good with that. But when does that go into effect? Did we all pay into the IRS and give the government a 0% loan for a period of time, and nobody's going to get their refund back from the government? But what about the people on entitlement program? I'm not talking about that. Do I think one of the things I heard floated was people on entitlement programs are going to have to pass a drug test? I think that's great. I think all federal workers should have to pass a drug test too. If you get rid of the IRS, did you redistribute the money back to the people who put it in the first place, or do we just shut it down? And then think about this. What does that do to retail companies that have lumpy seasonal revenue, who are in large part dependent upon tax season in order to get, and I don't mean like CPAs, people who prepare taxes. I mean people who have retail establishments or businesses that where people spend money when they get their tax returns. Now the argument is, if you're not paying taxes, you'll have that money to be able to spend year round. But we're not there yet, which means it's going to continue to economically to be painful for a while until all that catches up again. And that's, on the one hand, dude's been president for 2 weeks. We can't expect anything to change overnight. On the other hand, regardless of the propaganda that the Biden administration put out, saying that this is the strongest economy ever, it certainly doesn't feel that way. I mean, I just saw a report the other day. The minimum income required for a family of four, to get by. Oklahoma is $91,000 a year. Texas is $98,000 a year. California was $256,000 a year. Washington and Oregon State was in the 140s, $140,000 a year. Your breadbasket states, center of the country, flyover country, almost all of it's over $100,000 a year for a family of four to get by, right? You're not making any progress. You're not building an inheritance for your children. And part of that is because of the devaluation of the US dollar. And so, we're $36 trillion in debt, $37 trillion in debt. That's not going away anytime soon. Mm-hmm. And so, on the one hand, give the guy more time in order for his policies to take effect and start to produce an outcome, 100%. On the other hand, that we're not out of the woods yet. And I think by and large with Trump, with Elon, with everybody else, it's too early to tell. I also don't like that planes are falling out of the sky. Just so we're all on the same page. I don't love that. And people have been talking about, it's the predictive programming from the Obama movie that they made, where all the planes were falling. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. But I'm not buying this. It just looking at the footage when that Black Hawk flew into that plane in DC, it looks intentional. And then you look at the flight tracker data, like that helicopter was going in circles, and maybe it was a training mission. They're supposed to be going in circles. It just seems like that's a really shitty place to do some training. Like, let's fly our helicopter in circles on the flight approach of like the nation's airport. No, there's got to be a better place to do that. So I don't know. But I'm cautiously optimistic with Trump's economic policies. I don't want any more wars. The immigration thing, I already told you how I feel about that. I think the dangerous people and the violent criminals need to go. I think there should be an opportunity for the good people to get work visas to come back here and do the work that, frankly, Americans aren't doing. And a really interesting kind of microeconomy thing has been the home building crisis in Texas. And a lot of these new homes in Texas and these developments, I mean, anywhere near Dallas, Fort Worth, a starter home is what, $400,000
in North Texas?
Yeah, DFW area.
Small starter home, yeah.
And they're junk.
Mm-hmm.
They're trash. They're built terribly. And so there's a lot of people who are like, well, yeah, that's because they were built by illegals. And now that the illegals are gone, these would be jobs that Americans can do. And I agree with that. But it's a trade. Mm-hmm. You start as an apprentice. You don't know anything. And it takes years to work your way up to a journeyman. And then it takes years, add a decade on top of that, to work your way up to a master plumber, master electrician, master carpenter. That you're talking decades of work experience. And in the meanwhile, there's a huge demand for houses, which is what created the opportunity for illegals with subpar construction methodologies and skill sets to come in and do the work in the first place. Should those companies and those builders be held liable? Yeah. But also, when demand exceeds supply, you have to do something. It's economics 101. We got to do something to increase the supply, or the price will skyrocket where your starter home is now $800,000 and we build 3 a year. And so the whole thing's messy. And as the proud parent of 2 kids that are in trade school right now, I think more people should go to trade school and more people should learn the trades. And there's zero things that are shameful about being a person that works with their hands and has calluses on their hands. I think that's great, but it's going to take time to get there. You're not going to produce. I mean, the people you have coming out of trade school are going to be just as unskilled as the people who walked off the job because I showed up. That's going to take time. And in the meanwhile, without some, and here's my concern with all this, without some major leap in technology to fill the gap, to fill those jobs that would otherwise be done by people, the work's not going to get done in the short term. And my 8-year-old, I did a lot of fast forwarding, but we started watching the other day Terminator 2. Because the fundamental
Except
teaching,
for the butt scene.
I meant to fast forward past the Terminator butt. Instead, I got an 8-year-old giggling the whole time. But the overarching point here was don't trust the robots. Okay, don't get too comfy with technology. I don't want people replaced by technology. I think we should humanize as many aspects of humanity as possible and only give to the robots what is their purview. You want to crunch data? Yeah, that's probably a good job for a robot. Building a piece of furniture? The robots don't have souls. You're never going to get soul, into that thing that was made. There's no attractional vibration of a product that was made by a robot, and arguably the more we've leaned into the direction of technology, the less longevity our products have had. Like I got a brand new Ford F-250 in the driveway. It sucks. Like it's better than walking, but it's less than half the truck of my 2009 GMC one ton. Less than half. So because it was like robot welded and blah, blah, blah. It's got a giant screen in the dash. I don't care. The lease company 3 times was like, it's got an 11.3 inch screen. I don't care about the screen. I'm not using this. What am I supposed to watch the screen instead of the road? I don't care about the screen. It's stupid. I don't want it.
I don't want the screen either.
And so it just seems to me the more we lean in the direction of technology from a manufacturing and production standpoint, the less soul and longevity our end products have. Now, there's a place for it. I can tell you that the laser cutter for cutting fabric for sewing things at Refuge cuts way faster than people do.
Yes.
And it cuts more accurately than people do. But the machines that sew things are run by people, right? So there's some room, I think, for technological improvement where you can realize economies of scale faster with machines. But there's also something cool about knowing that like Mouse is at the cutting table doing layout with a piece of chalk, and we still have a lot of products where that's the way that it goes down. And you can just feel it, like a person made this, All right, I'm looking for more questions.
Oh, there haven't been any questions for a hot minute.
Oh.
They were all just agreeing with you.
Cool.
And talking a bunch.
Cool. Give me Pfeiffer's here. Wolf, Ben Valley, 100. Cool. Andy Barnes, tool and die makers are a dying breed. There you go. Machinists, right? Like somebody who can run the machine, not a machine that runs itself. Again, is there nuance to this? Yeah. If you give me a block of aluminum and, I can see the thing in my head. What am I thinking about? A machine, right? And say, hey, make an AR lower. Can it be done? Yeah, it can. Is it faster to do them 20 at a time inside of a CNC? I'd say yes. Is there a difference in the end product? Arguably, the CNC product is superior. It's more accurate. So yes, there's room for this. But when it comes into assembling that thing, is the robot going to do a better job than an armorer that knows what they're doing, putting it together, making sure the gas key's properly staked and you got the right lube on the right spring in the right place with the right tension and torque on the, like there's people are amazing creatures. We really are, and the best robot is still going to be a copy of what God made.
Mm-hmm.
It's soulless. Even if its programming has been taught for self-preservation that it needs to present as if it has a soul,
Mm-hmm.
it does not. Elohim did not breathe life into the robots. Okay. And there, if you look at a lot of this AI, man, these AI entities that have been created, they're manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
They're now lying, right? And it that's no good. You want to put that thing in charge of national defense or the world economy or distribution of resources? No, I'm good, man. I'm super good on that.
And I tell you, the markets are going towards AI, like forcing your hand into AI.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the Shopify stores today.
I gotta pee.
And
you keep talking. Be right back.
Doing some back end work and making a new product listing. And when I clicked in the header to type out the title for the product, there was a notice that popped up like, hey, do you want to use AI? And it was like AI generated titles have a 35% better caption rate or something like that. And that got me thinking, like I've already mentioned to T and stuff, because the big push is for these AI generated ads. Shopify or Facebook, all these social medias want to run AI generated ads. And I mentioned to him, because we had a discussion about the traction of some of our ads that we were doing. And I mentioned to him, hey, what if they're like throttling us because we're not using AI?
Mm.
And you missed it. I was telling him that I was doing a product title today.
Yeah,
and
there
was a little thing that popped up that was like 35% better traction if you use an AI generated title. So I really think that they are pushing it in their own subliminal kind of way, where you won't show up on Google results if you're not doing something, like they're going to be sneaky about it. They always are. So yeah, that's my stance. I don't even know why I started talking about that.
But we're talking about AI,
yeah,
and the robots. Kyle said, "Are you excited for ATS?" Yes. My hope and my goal is to just be there. ATS is our annual men's retreat, Arming the Saints, is to just be there as a brother and to not feel the need to do any what I call dancing bear shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there to perform. I'm not there to, it's like watching Bear Independent on YouTube for 3 days straight. No, none of that. Like, just spend time in the Word, spend time praying, spend time building each other up. See some people that I haven't seen in a while, and just be present and to actually retreat without the expectation of performing for anybody other than Yah. If he says, do this thing or speak this word, then so be it. So
somebody asked how our sheep are doing.
I see that. Stone Age upgrade. Bear, how are your lambs doing, and when are you going to get back to Bible reading study? So let's go in reverse order. Haggai just dropped, and I'm studying Zechariah right now. Because when I first started reading the Bible on camera, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna read this together with y'all, and it says what it says. And I still very much so stand by that. It says what it says. That's the parashat, the literal. But as you read through the book more and more, the cross references become more and more apparent, and you get from just the literal that this has been a recurring theme. It's called the fourfold interpretation. I've been teaching on this at church for a couple of weeks now, 2-3 weeks. Did a Patreon video about it. So medieval Christendom had the understanding, and we've inherited this understanding, that there's a minimum of 4 ways the Bible should be read. The first is literal. The next is allegorical or symbolic. The third is moral. And then the fourth is a big Greek word called anagogical, which means concerning the ascent of the soul. So moving from flesh to spirit, if you will, which is a beautiful thing. And then you have a rabbi by the name of Moses de Leon in 570 AD, I believe, who came up with what was called the Pardes, which is an acronym for parashat, which is literal, remez, which is allegorical or symbolic, drosh, which is comparative, and then sod, which is mystical. And so there's at least 4 different ways. I would submit to you probably thousands, but given our human comprehension, there's 4 different ways that we can and should read and interpret the Bible. And so it's been 5 years since I started reading Genesis chapter 1 on camera, and my knowledge and experience in the word has grown, and I don't want to just unnecessarily skip over things when there's tie-ins there. And so it takes a little bit longer now for me to produce a Bible video than it used to, because I don't want to get it wrong. And it's a big part of why I tell you guys and girls all the time, like, don't take my word for it either. Like, you should be reading your Bible right along with me and be praying over it and asking the Spirit to reveal to you what the truth of this word is. Because there's also, without fail, every time I open the word, there's something in there that I swear to you wasn't in there the last time I read it. Every time. And so the scales falling from your eyes is a continual process. It is a big one at first, but that's just the beginning, homie. It just keeps going. And he who can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. And that's a gradual process. And so every time I read through there, I swear there's something that wasn't in there last time I read it. And so these Bible videos become a snapshot in time of my understanding at the moment. And as my understanding grows and my responsibility has grown, I don't want to be wrong. And the viewership has grown too. Like, it's bad enough if I get it wrong for one of y'all. It's really bad if I get it wrong for 226,000 of you. So it takes a little bit more time Dana asked this question the other night on Patreon on Thursday night. Like, what does that process look like? Well, I read it through that book, beginning to end. Just read it through. You get the overall theme of it. Then I'll go back and start reading again, and I start taking notes. And then I'll read it a third time, line for line, looking for compare contrast, that drosh that Moses de Leon was talking about. And sometimes it may require even a 4th reading, and then I'm developing my notes, fleshing my notes out. I'll look at commentaries if there's something that I'm not really sure about, or hey, I don't know what this means. Is it possible to know what this means? I don't know. Well, what did Spurgeon think about that? What did David Guzik think about that? What did the sages, the rabbis say about that? And then try and get an understanding there to be able to present that understanding. And then I also look at the historical aspects of it. When did this take place in time, and what else was going on at that time in the micro, where the author of this book wrote it, but also in the macro on the world stage, to make it a little bit more relatable and in context. And that just takes time. I can't just poop one of those out, once a week like I used to. And there's also, for everything, there's a season. Ecclesiastes, right? I'm not done reading the Bible. I've committed to the Father to read every word on camera with y'all. And we're 80+% of the way there. But there are seasons. And right now, I'm not convicted to rush putting out anything, let alone putting out a Bible video, because that's the Father's word. And my goal should be to get it as right as I possibly can. So in a few weeks, you'll start having some Zechariah videos. Babe, how are the lambs doing?
They're doing great. We had a little snafu where we accidentally gave away a mom, and a few hours later heard the babies crying out in the field. But we were able to catch them and get them reunited with their mom at their new home. But other than that, they're doing great. I did have one ewe that went to lamb and was never able to push the baby out and would not allow me to snatch her. So pretty sure that baby died. But other than that, it's been great. It's been easy. Every lambing season always brings its own set of new things. I've never had a lamb that didn't get birthed. So that was a whole new, thing for me, trying to catch this ewe that was sketchy to begin with, and certainly was beyond freaked out when, she's trying to push a baby out of her hoo-ha and it's not coming, because she was a new mom. She's one of my yearlings. And so yeah, that's always a challenge, but otherwise things are great. We have 9 so far?
I don't freaking know, babe. I think.
Or either at 9 or 11. And still have, I believe, 4 ewes to go. So
and we're a small operation.
Yeah.
Like we're not in any way a commercial operation.
No.
And then there's people who like run sheep and that's what they do.
Right.
We're probably on the larger side of hobbyist when it comes to sheep.
Yeah. So Rain Cat had some born today in the snow, of course.
Of course.
And she asked, does anybody know why? So they say it's because of the barometric pressure.
You nailed that pronunciation.
I did.
You're so good.
It took me a hot minute. Had to pause.
Pilgrim, I love medical terminology. Hoo-ha.
You never know who's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they say it's due to the drop of barometric pressure, that basically if a ewe or if any animal is close to their due date, if that barometric pressure drops, then they're going to drop babies.
I think, so what's the utility in that? Well, for the shepherd or shepherdess, it sucks because it's always like in the worst possible weather, they're dropping babies. But I also think that it suppresses predation. Daddy, when are you going to watch a movie? When I get done with this, sweetie. Okay? When I am done when I'm done. When the words run out. And then you and me are going to watch a movie. You want to finish watching Terminator?
I watched Terminator 1.
The first one?
Yeah.
I don't know. The robot kills a lot of people in that one.
Robots.
He tries to be good in Terminator 2.
Okay, sure.
Probably not the first one. It's pretty gory. We'll figure it out, but we'll watch something.
Okay.
Okay. I love you.
Love you.
How's your fever? Yeah.
So Tracy, our sheep are hair sheep. So they do not shear. We do not shear. We don't have wool. They have hair that they, what's the term? Like
Mulch?
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
They shed.
Yeah, that's the term. They shed.
Yeah, they're like a dog. Like they get their coat in for winter and then they shed it in the spring, which does a number on your fencing. If you have any type of crossed or barbed wire fencing, they get their sides and their butts and they rub and rub and rub and try to get that coat off when they go to shed it. But yeah, we don't do anything with wool.
What's up, Ben? DH, that's a great recommendation. Where the red fern grows. I'm writing that down on my Palm Pilot 1.0.
What can you compare the flavor of sheep to?
Like way less gamey venison.
Yeah.
Like mild venison.
Yeah.
Like
really mild.
If you've ever had like a beautifully tender doe, right? That's probably, at least for Katahdins, our breed and our herd, like the more gamey version of Katahdin would be a beautifully tender, super sweet doe. I don't know, but it makes really good vindaloo. You're correct, Scuba Rob. We what's that stuff? What do you get at the Indian place?
Korma.
Korma. There
Lamb
it is.
korma.
Lamb korma. Very good. I'm basic. Butter chicken. Hook it up. And some naan. I'm in. Hami, do you have any kind of education system planned for community kids when the world ends?
Nope.
That's why I'm already laughing.
I am not the person to ask. No. No, my book work, absolutely not. It would be hands-on training and education, because that's what I do. I'm the hands-on person. I am not I've got the IQ, but I don't have the drive nor the will to do the books.
You also flutter.
Flutter?
I don't know, because you don't have ADHD, but you just kind of like, you're like a butterfly. No, if you do, you're undiagnosed. Kale's on the other side of the camera right now, screaming.
She knows.
You just flutter from a thing to a thing to a thing, you know.
Right. So my thing is like, I want to know everything well enough. And so like when I get into something and I know it like to the capacity that I think is like pretty darn good, then not necessarily mastery, but then I'm ready for something else. Like I get bored and then I'm ready to jump to the new thing. So
I was
fluttery.
I was talking to my coach earlier, Matt, and he was like, he goes, T, I don't think you realize the uniqueness of your intellectual capacity. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He goes, you learn really fast. It's like, thanks. And I think some things I do learn really fast. Other lessons I've been doomed to repeat over and over and over and over and over again. But like book stuff, it just sticks.
Yeah, you are the book guy.
Yeah, but also like, if I do something enough times, if I get enough reps and sets on a thing, like build me a dovetail joinery drawer box for a cabinet. Okay, got it. When was the last time we did that? 7 years ago.
Right.
Okay, got it. Frame this house. Okay, pour this concrete. All right, just run this dozer, fell this tree, whatever. And so He said most people, Matt said most people's, they learn up to the point that their curiosity is satisfied, right? And I think that's true for most people. And he's like, your curiosity is just deeper. Like you just go way deeper than most people go with a lot of things, like a very like broad spectrum of things. Josephus, that's a great question. What books are you reading right now? Honey, you want to answer that?
For you?
No, for you.
Oh, none. My word. I read my Bible, but that's really the only book I read.
I'm reading Dork Diaries.
You're reading Dork Diaries?
Weez is reading the Dork Diaries.
Good job.
Thank you, Sam Offgrid. Bless you. Thank you. I'm reading Coach Prime, Dion. What is the name of his book? I think it's Coach Prime. I don't remember. And Parallel Universes of Self by Frederick Dodson. And that was after reading Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. And I will say this about Frederick Dodson. I do not recommend anyone go read his books or consume his content unless A, you're very spiritually aware and mature, and B, you view everything that he says through the lens of Messiah. So who would you suggest for masculine pastors? Like currently teaching the word? And what is pastor? Jeremiah 3:15, shepherds, ra'ah. And I shall raise up shepherds over you after my own heart, says Yahweh, who shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. Like Zach at New to Torah, that's a pastor. There's a structure there after Yah's heart. So hierarchy, structure, after Yah's heart, feeding you with knowledge and understanding. That's pastorship. Pastor Joe Fox at Shofar Mountain, the YouTube channel Shofar Mountain. That's pastorship. And there are many brothers on, Rex, Tabor Source Rex has hundreds of Bible videos that are just layered with understanding. Is he over you? Well, he's instructing and you're receiving. So yeah. Is he after Yah's heart? Yeah. Is he feeding you with knowledge and understanding? Yeah. Okay. Did anybody rub oil on his forehead? I don't know. I don't think so. But does it take somebody rubbing oil on your forehead to say you're a pastor now? Tactically Torah, who's on, I think is on right now, has many good teachings at his channel. Bob, Bug Out Bob, has his Wednesday night Bible study. Many good teachings there. Buckets and Bibles, who's on right now, doing the same thing, right? So I think the question would be, what are you trying to get out of an interaction or relationship with a pastor? And then there's also layers. Hooter and Torah, thank you, Lamppost Collective. Hooter and Torah, exactly. And then there's also layers to this. Because am I an ordained pastor? Yes. Am I your ordained pastor? Well, some of y'all I fellowship with, but the vast majority of y'all I don't. And so what that means is we lack context. And so I can only answer your questions in the broadest brushstrokes. Unlike somebody coming over and sitting on the porch for an hour or two and we have a conversation and try and find the truth of the matter. Right? And so there's degrees to the game based upon proximity and context. And so if you need, and I submit you do, that proximity and context, then you got to go pastor shopping. Go to every church you can and make sure they're preaching the word, they're teaching the word. And here's another thing. I'll say this in my older age, because I'm not old yet, but I'm certainly not young anymore. There are many men in leadership positions in the church throughout the years that seemed like wussies to me, but they were more the true definition of meekness. They weren't just nice guys, right? They had the capacity for violence and mayhem and being strong. They just weren't exercising that in that context because it would have been completely inappropriate if they were. And then you have to lay over the top of that denominational bullshit. Is there a specific denomination that you're trying to appease, or are you just looking for truth? Now, one of the things, talking to Jeff Kirkham, the Rats Tourniquet developer, yesterday on the phone, one of the things that he said that on the phone call that we had that was really good, one of the reasons I'm looking forward to having him on the show, was he said there's a difference between searching for the truth and trying to be right. And I agree with that statement. And I think I've definitely messed that up at times. But I think when it comes to the disposition of your eternal soul, you should be looking for truth, not trying to be right, however you define that denominationally or via doctrines or dogmas or whatever. So are you familiar with Kyle Thompson? He's been on with Chad Prather and is all about Christian masculinity. I am not familiar with Kyle Thompson. The name vaguely rings a bell, but I don't know anything about that sir or madam. I'm assuming sir. Alan Shirley, I recommend Bear Independent. LOL. Thanks.
Somebody asked if you had suggestions on non-mammal items for med kits. They have alpha gal, so they can't use standard quick clot and stuff like that.
So quick clot is made with kaolin clay. It's cotton gauze and kaolin clay. So there shouldn't be any animal products in quick clot. It used to be, way back in the day, it was shellfish powder. But there shouldn't be, now check that. But my understanding is you're talking cotton gauze and kaolin clay. I don't have any suggestions off the top of my head, but that is an intriguing question. I will get with the team and see if there is a better way to answer that. Then I don't know, but I'll certainly find out. Sarah, are you a visual, auditory, tactile, etc. learner, and do you see in visuals, words, etc. when thinking? I'm, I guess, predominantly tactile. Yes. Yep. I'll be done by then. Why don't you go do something for right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
What time is it?
It's 4:57 p.m. Central Time.
So about so
Yeah, go do something.
Why don't you go color or draw or something? I'm mostly tactile. Listening, I can't say I'm great at listening. I think I'm okay at listening.
But you listen to a lot of stuff to not.
For somebody who isn't great at listening.
Like, if that's the case, I'm going to tell you to shut that shit off.
Can you see that scratch on the
I do.
Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. There's a tree.
Because you listen like all the time. Like you were always listening to stuff. If you're not a
I guess. Okay. Let me redefine listening. Do I receive information auditorily? Yes. Do I retain that information with a high rate of recall? Maybe, if I'm interested in it. Do I act on it like flawlessly with only receiving it via auditory? No, I don't. I'm more visual for sure. But definitely tactile. Like if I do it with my hands, I got it.
I'm all the way tactile, and then visual, and lastly is auditory. Like you talk and I zone you out.
I know.
I know you know.
Hey babe. They're like a shiny object. Oh, look, a butterfly. What? There's butterflies? And then, okay, do you see in visuals, words, etc. when thinking? Being perfectly honest, when I'm thinking, let me see if I can describe how my brain works. First of all, there's a library in my brain, and it's filled with both bookshelves and file cabinets. And sometimes there's a librarian there, and we got the Dewey Decimal System, and we can find that for you right now. Other times it's after hours and the lights are out, and we're just wandering around with a flashlight, hoping for the best. It just depends, right? And I know it's all in there. It's just sometimes I got to remember what bookshelf it's on or what cabinet we put it in, or I thought it was in this cabinet, but it's actually in that cabinet. And so very compartmentalized, segmented, there's also a desk in this library that it just has stacks of books and papers and drawings and all of that. And that's on the one side of my brain. And then on the other side of my brain is like an infinitely large whiteboard that just keeps going. And there's stuff that gets written on the whiteboard just for a hot minute so that I don't forget it. And there's stuff that's like been written on the whiteboard for so long that if you sprayed it with rubbing alcohol, you'd still have to scrub to get it to come off. And the predominant colors on the whiteboard are black, blue, and red. And I just am sketching things constantly over there, recording data, trying to remember. I know I wrote that on the whiteboard. Where is it? And so there are times visually in my brain where I'll just go over here and like close my eyes and be like, I know it's there. I wrote it down. And because I'm tactile, there's brain science to support this. Visualizing, writing it down on the whiteboard in my brain has almost not the same efficacy, but almost the same efficacy as actually writing it down in person, like in real life. Mm-hmm. And then there's visitors to the library. People come and people go, and sometimes there's guest lecturers, and sometimes there's other people in there with me, and sometimes it's me at the desk with the word and the spirit, and Yah's present, and it's beautiful. And other times it's like just me sitting alone in the dark in the library with no lights, no candles, no flashlight. Like I'm just gonna sit in here and like listen to the bookshelves creak. Mm-hmm. That's what my brain looks like. But it's a cool library. It's like oak paneled, mahogany paneled. It's got one of those rolly ladders, brass ladders in it. It's awesome. Big, tall ceilings, Gothic architecture. It's beautiful. But the other side where the whiteboard is like very utilitarian, like Steve Jobs-ish. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you got? What does your brain look like? It's like 100,000 colors, like butterflies and unicorns and rainbows, puppy dogs. I don't know.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, probably. And just like random stuff pops out. Like there's boxes. Uh-huh. There's like bankers boxes.
Okay.
Back in there that, you know, when you're like, hey, honey, where's that thing that I misplaced a year ago? I'm like, oh, it's right here in this. Yeah, like that's this kind of stuff that's in the bankers boxes. But it's filled with literal, like all the things. Like I have like the photogenic brain, but for stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that like you have banker's boxes that hold stuff, and I have like file cabinets that hold information.
Right.
Right. Which is why you're like, when you're like, what year was the Civil War? It's like, oh, I got you. And I'm like,
Right.
where's that inch and 7/8 ball hitch that I had? And you're like, oh, it's over there. It's in the cast iron on the back porch of the old house.
Right. But I keep a lot of like words go into banker boxes. And like you'll notice every once in a while, like I look up, and that's because I'm trying to find the banker box that the word is in that I'm trying to think of.
Are the banker boxes in racks, or are they just stacked on top of each other?
They're just like thrown in a corner. Half of them are spilling out.
Do you ever like take the lid off the box? You're like, oh shit. And it's like, I don't know that was in there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Yep.
Psychology of Hom.
Right. It's a messed up, like, it's an odd place to be in my brain. We'll just put it that way.
Are there visitors in there?
Oh yeah, people come all the time.
You tell them to go away?
No, we have conversations.
That's
I talk to myself a lot.
Okay, so that ties into Luke's question. Have you ever heard that some people can't hear their own voice in their head when they are thinking? I read about that the other day. It was interesting.
Yeah, that bumfuzzles me because I've very, very, very clearly talked to myself and hear my own replies all the time.
Is it your higher self that you're talking to?
I don't know. So, I mean, sometimes, but it's just like conversations just play out in my head. Like it's a whole tape going on. And it's always been that way. Like whenever I was little, I used to sit in front of my mirror and like talk to my brain.
Hello, brain. Oh, hello, mommy.
No, I was just like,
how are you today? I am good. How are you, brain? I'm good. I'm a little thirsty. Okay, we should get you some water, brain.
Yeah, like
I'm the same way and cannot even fathom not hearing my own voice in my head. I'm the same way, homie, says Luke.
I love being able to like talk to myself, literally.
Dudley, we know. I don't talk to myself. I just work out problems as fast as possible while random info plays on 10 different screens.
Yeah, 100%, Dud.
They're all, and see, the thing is, though, Dudley failed to mention they're all touch screens, and sometimes other Dudleys in there just also poking buttons. Well, Big Dudley is like trying to also, like, Big Dudley's trying to run the show, but little Dudley's in there touching the touch screens sometimes. And he's like, oh, yeah, of course, it's no problem. And then he just like blue screen of death just for a minute. And you could tell like little Dudley touched the touch screen. And he's like, hold on a minute. I gotta hit the back button a couple times on that. Oh, I think we got time for like one more question. What do you think, Mom?
Probably.
Do you think we might be in the little season? I don't, Jamie, and I'm not overly. The little season is after the Millennial Kingdom. When I was just going to say, I'm not overly familiar with this concept. It was something that somebody mentioned a couple weeks ago, and I've done no research on. But it's the idea that after the Millennial Kingdom, Satan is released for a time, and then the ultimate final battle, Gog and Magog, happens, and Satan is destroyed and thrown in the lake of fire. And then Millennial Kingdom. I don't think that we are, because my reading and understanding of Revelation is linear, because it's the only book of the Bible that is often taken out of the timeline that we're given in order to support certain pet doctrines and dogmas. And my God is the God of order, not of chaos. I hear a baby. I knew we were short on time. Speaking of little seasons. So I don't think that Revelation should be taken out of order, because Revelation is predominantly visions from the 3 major and the 12 minor prophets, then put into order. So Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Micah, Joel, Amos, Hosea, they all touch on end times and end times prophecy. Daniel, quite a bit, right? But what we're not given is an order in any of these things. We've got pieces and parts. And then John, is what is revealed to John is the coming of the Son of Man, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, and the pattern in which this is all going to play out. And so what would be the value of restating the pieces and parts that we already had from the Old Testament out of order in the New Testament, the book of Revelation? So I don't trend in the direction of there's multiple timelines going on and things are out of order, and you have to understand there's a significant pause here in order for this to happen. We can and should read, again, we talked about the fourfold interpretation: literal, symbolic or allegorical, moral, and anagogical, the ascent of the soul, or parashat, literal, remez, allegorical, symbolic, drash, comparative, and then sod, the mystical. We should read it on all these different levels, but we shouldn't miss the forest for the trees and miss out on the literal. What does it literally say? And there's a lot of, and then it shall be, and then after this came this. And so there's an order and a timeline that's established in Revelation. And so if we go with the information as presented, we would have already had the third temple, the interruption of what is continual, aka the morning and evening sacrifices, in the pattern of Antiochus 4 Epiphanies during the time of Yehoiakim Maccabeus and the Maccabees, the Maccabean rebellion. So there would have been, like, sacrifices would have already continued or resumed, so they could be stopped. There would have been a great series of plagues and earthquakes in diverse places, and the 2 witnesses, and a giant, Yeshua on a horse with blood up to the bridles, and all the enemies of Messiah destroyed.
Mine.
And that's not yours, that's mine, it's a pen. And we'd be in Jerusalem, and then the short season. And so I don't think we're there yet. Because if Messiah had returned a second time, the whole world documents inside of the Bible and extra biblically the first coming of Messiah. The stories that we have in the 4 canonical gospels, right? If Messiah had returned again, half of the world's population are sons and daughters of Abraham, be that Judaism, Islam, or Christianity. I think we would know. I think one person would have written it down, like, yep, Yeshua came again, and then all this stuff happened. Now, is it impossible that we're in the little season? No, it's not impossible, because Yah can do whatever he wants to do, and maybe we just don't know. Maybe the scales are on our eyes with that. I don't know. I don't know. But I haven't seen enough data that's in line with what we're given in Revelation to say definitively that all these things have come to pass already. And there's a lot of people who say, well, we're in Revelation right now, and if we are, it's definitely the minor tribulation, not the great tribulation. And I'm not convinced that we are either, for myriad reasons. But the predominant and overarching theme as to why I'm not convinced that we are is because if we are, then John really, really overemphasized some things in the book of Revelation. If this is what tribulation is, where I can sit in my house, well-fed, relatively healthy, comfortable, talking on the internet to y'all about Messiah without the Antichrist trying to cut my head off, then this ain't tribulation. The people then argue geography. Well, all prophecy is only relevant to Israel. Okay, cool. Well, I've been watching news out of Israel too. That's not happening over there either. So there's a lot of things that are prophesied to happen before the physical return of Messiah to earth that haven't happened yet, are completely undocumented. We're just not there yet. And one of the nails in the coffin for that, for me, if you remember back to the sign in 2012, the woman in Virgo. Remember that? It comes out of Revelation chapter 12, and the woman is pregnant and she's about to give birth, and she's crowned. You know, the constellation Virgo had these stars over her head. It was like a crown, and Mercury was in her belly, and all that. And everybody on the whole internet was saying, Barry, you got to understand this only happens once every 5,000 years. And so I did some digging on that. And that's not true. Astronomically, that exact sign happens every 312 years. And that was 12 years ago. So we got another 300 years before that happens again. So if that Virgo with Mercury in her belly with the stars over her head is the sign of Revelation 12, then we're 300 years out from that, if that's the sign. If it's not, well then, and here's my thing. I think Revelation is going to be, you'll know it. You'll know it. We won't have to wonder. We won't have to wonder, is Mashiach in the land? Is this the tribulation? You will know. We will know. And so maybe not the most satisfying answer, but that's what I got on that. I'm just not convinced that we're in end times. You could convince me that we're knocking on the door of end times. I can go there pretty easily, but I don't think we're in tribulation. And I don't think tribulation has occurred, and that the millennial reign has occurred, and that we're now in that little season in between the millennial reign and eternity. I'll also say this: I'd be quite happy to be wrong. If I'm that close to eternity with Messiah, that's amazing, awesome. That's awesome. But I just don't feel it in my gut or my heart that we are there. But happy to be wrong, but I just don't think that we are. What about you? You think we're in the millennial kingdom? Think we're in tribulation? No? Oh, okay.
Yep.
What if Squish is one of the two witnesses?
That'd be really cool.
She's just like breathing fire in Jerusalem?
Yep.
That'd be amazing.
I can see it though. I mean, she's a little tornado.
Yeah, she's been doing it, man. She's been doing it here lately. So, all right, guys. I appreciate y'all. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to do before we left. I just wanted to read you guys something real quick. Real quick. Where did it go? Doobie doo. Okay. So, where is it? So this came from Circle G Outdoors yesterday, who asked for prayers on the Men's Group Monday prayer group because his wife responded to a motor vehicle accident. And then this was sent in today. Motor vehicle accident, motorcycle, and septic truck. The following is my wife's firsthand account. This is a quote. I came upon a motorcycle accident about 30 seconds after impact. Young male, approximately mid-20s, was on the ground a few feet from the back of a septic pump truck. The motorcyclist was not wearing a helmet. I parked in the ditch and pulled the inner out of the medical kit, the bare minimum, and ran over to the motorcyclists. I squatted down to do a visual check assessment to decide what to do first. 2 cars passed by and 2 more had stopped. Motorcyclist was still laying in the road, so I made an executive decision to move him out of the road since we couldn't really stop traffic. It's a good call. What if they had spinal damage? Yes. What if they get run over by a Peterbilt? Yeah. The guy had an obvious head wound that was temple down to collarbone and was bleeding profusely. Also an obvious shoulder injury. My immediate concern was stopping the bleed from the head and neck wound. Arm had minor road rash and a little bleeding, but I didn't see that as a priority. I ripped open multiple packets of gauze to apply pressure. When the bleeding slowed and I was needing to swap for fresh gauze, you could see the bone of the skull was visible. When I was on my last pack of gauze, EMS arrived and was able to take over. I was given alcohol to clean the motorcyclist's blood off of me. I wasn't told anything else about the motorcyclist after EMS departed. I'm unsure of his current condition. Good for you, sister. And then he went on, Circle G Outdoors went on to say, which, by the way, he has a YouTube channel. He's doing like some gear reviews and philosophical stuff over there. So you might go, he's a member of the Bear Nation, might go check him out. Circle G Outdoors. This is the second time she's used her refuge kit for wounds. The first time was on herself for a decent laceration. Thank the Father she always carries her kit and that she was willing to step in and try to help. This event has shown us just how important training is, and we'll be trying our best to get to a responder class ASAP. Yahovah bless y'all at Refuge. So that's a significant aid rendered. If we get more information about the severity of the wounds and whether or not the patient made it, it may move into the life saved column, but that one's too early to call right now. But praise God that you were there and that you were able to render aid. That's what it's all about. Just being able to intervene to buy somebody time. That's beautiful. Then the second thing was sent in, life saved. On the night of the 31st of December 24, while outside having a drink and tending to a fire, I heard tires squeal up the road about a quarter mile outside of the RV park I'm staying in. I at first brushed this off as someone taking the corner too fast. It wasn't until about 30 minutes later, when I could see the lights of responding emergency vehicles, that I made my way towards the park entrance to find several squad vehicles as well as a flatbed wrecker recovering what was left of an early 2000s Silverado from the ditch. I then got to talking with bystanders and officers. They all remarked on how there was blood, but no one in the truck, and it turns out that's why medical crews weren't on scene. They showed up, but they were released when no injured party was found. Thinking my presence on scene offered no real benefit, I then decided to head back to my RV. While walking away from the scene, I could hear a faint man's voice calling for help. I then located the man, late 40s to early 50s, laid on his back in the woods next to a utility shed used by the park. The man had no shirt and his pants were pulled down around his lower legs and work boots. His arms were crossed in a manner that would suggest a spinal injury, and his lower left leg appeared to be broken. Lower leg and foot seemed to pivot at mid-shin. I quickly yelled for officers who ran to assist. Then I ran to get my kits, Bearfac and belt kit. Upon returning, I gave one of the officers the gloves out of my kit in the dark and couldn't seem to find the Mylar blanket. But by that time, EMS crews had shown back up, and they eventually loaded the man and took him up to the hospital. I then helped officers do a search of the surrounding area in an attempt to find any other injured people. Shortly after I left the scene, I could hear them flying a drone in the hopes of finding someone else, hopefully with thermal. That's a great use for drones. With a thermal capability to be able to find people in areas where it's very hard to look for people on the ground. Well, flash forward to last week, and I'm called by a detective working the case. He informs me that the injured man I found survived, and he asked if I would come in and give a statement. The next day, I meet up with another detective for an interview, and he asked me at one point if I'd seen any drag marks on the man's body. And then it really clicked for me. Even if this guy could have moved to that location on his own, he probably would have had to crawl on his stomach. There were no drag marks on his front. Because of the potential for spinal injury, we never rolled him over to check his back, so I don't know if there were marks on his back. He also wasn't bleeding profusely like what would have been needed to make the mess of blood the officers had mentioned in the truck, which leads me to believe that whoever wrecked that truck might have thought his passenger was dead and tried to hide him. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what exactly might have happened that night, but it just goes to show you, stay vigilant and safe. Just because there are flashing lights doesn't mean everything is magically all better. Police are human too. No one working that scene heard the guy calling for help because of the wrecker running his PTO and half a dozen other vehicles idling up and down the road. This guy was about 30 or so yards off the underbrush and trees blocking most line of sight. It was corroborated by the detective on his phone that our original assessment of the patient was accurate as far as spinal and lower leg injury, as well as saying that the man would not have survived if he hadn't been found then. We are in Northwest Washington State, and he probably would have frozen to death if not died of his injuries. I just wish I had been better prepared. I'm thankful for the equipment and the training I have received from Refuge, and the blessing and protection from the Father has given me. Thank you, Refuge Medical, and bless you, Refuge Nation. That's an insane story. Dude, praise Yah you were there. That's amazing. We're in Northwest Washington. That's all I know, AOE. But man, like, the Father orchestrated that for you to be able to be there and find that guy. That's amazing. What a blessing. Like, what an absolute blessing. I don't know. I'm just so glad to hear that. That's what we're about at Refuge, is the preservation of life. And a pair of gloves. Are we gonna count that as a life saved? They used a pair of gloves. I don't know. Probably not, honestly. But it's way bigger than that. It's not about having another tick mark. It's about the Father using you and you having the responder mindset and mentality to get in there and do the right thing. That's beautiful. Being in the right place at the right time. I don't know why, but there's certain people that the Father uses that are just in the right place at the right time, sometimes often. I've been one on occasion. And then the lady, Circle G Outdoors, his wife with the truck, motorcyclist versus truck. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know what the injuries look like, but holding gauze on head wounds that are bleeding profusely. Can you bleed out from a head wound? Yes, it's less quick than other places, but yes, that can happen. Shoulder injury depends where on the shoulder. I mean, you got the subclavian artery under here that's pretty big pipe. Who knows? But man, all glory to Elohim. That's amazing, and good job to both of y'all for doing that. I thought those are really cool stories, and I wanted to share them with y'all. And I hear the baby going crazy, and I've got a movie date with an 8-year-old. So I appreciate y'all very much. Thank you for bearing with me in this season of life, where I am less present on camera than usual, and certainly at odd times. That's okay. It'll all be okay. I will see y'all when I see you. Go be the light, and don't let anybody turn your light down. Like, turn it up. The world needs more light. The world needs more love and forgiveness and kindness and understanding and Messiah. The world needs more Messiah. And until he gets back, that's our job. And what an honor.